Um, Lovely Virgos, I need you to stop right now. Not slow down, stop. Because I know you. Not your name, not your story in detail, but I know the energy you are carrying right now. And it is the energy of someone who has been waiting, not for a few weeks, not for a few months, years. You have been waiting for years, holding something, believing in something, working towards something, or simply surviving something long enough that the waiting itself has become a kind of identity. Long enough that you have had to rebuild your hope more than once. Long enough that the people around you stopped asking about it. Long enough that even you, on some of the harder days, wondered if the thing you were waiting for was ever actually going to arrive. And here you are, still here, still watching, still somewhere inside you, holding on. And I want to say something to you before anything else. That alone, the fact that you are still here, still open enough to click on a video like this, still carrying enough hope to wonder if this one might say something real, that is not small. That is one of the most extraordinary things a human being can do. Keep the door open after years of uncertainty. Keep the flame alive when there has been so little to feed it. Now, let me tell you what I am sensing, and I want you to really let this land. Not process it immediately, not manage it, not immediately protect yourself against it. Just let it land. Something is turning, not shifting slightly, not nudging in a new direction, turning the way a tide turns, the way a season turns, that quality of something that has been moving in one direction, reaching its furthest point, and beginning, finally, unmistakably, to move the other way. And the thing that is turning is the exact thing you have been waiting for. Let me ask you something. Think about the thing you have been waiting for, the real thing, not the surface version, the version underneath, the one that lives in the quiet part of you that you do not always let people see. What does it feel like to have been waiting for it this long? Not intellectually in your body. What does it actually feel like? For some of you, it feels like a weight, a constant, low-level heaviness that you have become so accustomed to, you have stopped noticing it is there. For others, it feels like a held breath, like you have been in a state of inhale for so long, you have almost forgotten what exhale feels like. For others, it is more like a scar, something that healed over but never fully disappeared, something that aches sometimes in certain weather. Whatever it feels like for you, I want you to acknowledge it right now, not push past it, not minimize it. Just let yourself feel the full weight of how long this has actually been. Because what is about to shift is proportional to that weight. Does this resonate with where you are? Have you been carrying something for years that most people around you do not fully understand? Tell me in the comments, tell me how long. You do not have to say what it is. Just tell me how long you have been waiting. Because I think the depth of that waiting needs to be witnessed. And I think a lot of you have been carrying it almost entirely alone. Let me talk about what years of waiting does to a person, because it does something very specific, and I do not think it gets talked about honestly enough. Years of waiting quietly erodes your ability to believe in your own timing. You start to wonder if there is something wrong with you, if other people are moving forward while you are standing still, if the life you imagined for yourself was always just slightly out of reach for a reason, if maybe you are someone who wants things deeply but is not someone who gets to have them. And that erosion, that quiet cumulative erosion of self-belief, is one of the most painful things about long waiting. Not the waiting itself, but what the waiting starts to whisper to you about who you are and what you deserve. I want to speak directly to that whisper right now. It is lying to you. The length of your wait is not evidence of your unworthiness. It is not punishment. It is not a message from the universe about your value. It is simply the nature of certain things. Certain things take longer, not because they are less likely, but because they are more significant, because they require more preparation, more alignment, more of the internal work that cannot be rushed. The things worth having most are almost never the things that arrive quickly. Let me slow down for a second because I want to describe something very specific. There is a moment that happens in long waiting, a particular kind of moment that is very easy to miss. It is the moment when the quality of the waiting changes. Not the waiting ending, not a dramatic shift, but something quieter. A moment when the heaviness lifts just slightly, when the breath comes a little easier, when something that has felt impossibly far suddenly feels within a range you can actually sense, not see clearly yet, but sense. Have you had any moments like that recently where something in the quality of how you are carrying this has shifted slightly, where the weight has felt fractionally different? Tell me in the comments, because I think some of you are already inside this shift without fully recognizing it. Now, let me go deeper into what a turning point actually is, because I think it is different from what most people imagine. When we picture a turning point, we tend to picture something dramatic, a clear before and after, a moment so distinct you could draw a line through it. And sometimes turning points are like that. Sometimes they announce themselves. Sometimes the shift is unmistakable from the moment it happens. But the turning points that come after years of waiting, the ones that are the answer to something long and deep and real, those tend to arrive differently. They tend to begin quietly, a small thing, an almost ordinary thing, something that in another season of your life you might have missed entirely. But because of everything you have been through, because of the years of waiting and working and holding on, because of who you have become inside all of that, you recognize it. Something in you just knows this is different. This is the one. This is what all of that was leading to. Think about a moment recently, something small, Maybe a conversation that went differently than expected. Maybe a decision that suddenly felt clear when it had been foggy for months. Maybe a morning where you woke up and something in you felt fractionally more settled, more grounded, more like yourself than you have felt in a long time. These small things, these quiet, almost invisible shifts, they are not nothing. They are the beginning of the turning, the first movement of something very large. Hold on, because I need to say something here that I think is really important. Some of you have been so deep in the waiting, so accustomed to things not shifting, that you have developed a kind of immunity to hope, not by choice, not because you are negative or broken or incapable of believing, but as protection, because hope has cost you something before. Because getting excited about something and then watching it not materialize has happened enough times that your system learned to stay low, stay cautious, stay protected. And I am not going to tell you that protection was wrong. It has kept you functional. It has kept you moving. It has kept you from collapsing under the weight of repeated disappointment. But here is what I want to ask you. Is it possible, just possible, that the protection is now costing you something different? That the same armor that kept you safe during the long middle might be making it harder to fully receive what is beginning to arrive? Because you cannot fully receive a turning point while braced against it. You cannot fully step into what is beginning while still standing in the posture of someone who expects nothing. And I think as things begin to shift, you are going to be asked to do something that feels genuinely risky. You are going to be asked to let yourself believe this is real. Not blindly, not without discernment, not in a way that throws away the wisdom you have earned, but genuinely, honestly, with your whole self. Let me paint you a scene. Imagine it is sometime soon, an ordinary enough day, nothing that announced itself as special when it began. And something happens, something arrives, a conversation, a realization, an opportunity, a message, something that on the surface seems small. But when it lands, something in you goes very still, not in a frightened way, in a settled way, like when something slips into exactly the place it was always supposed to go. And in that stillness, in that quiet that spreads through you from somewhere deep, you feel it. This is it. Not with a shout, but with a certainty so quiet and so complete that it does not need a shout. And in that moment, after years of waiting, after all of the doubt and the erosion and the rebuilding, the only thing that will matter, the only thing that will be asked of you is whether you are present enough to receive it, whether you are open enough to let it be real, whether you are grounded enough to step toward it instead of away, whether you trust yourself enough to say yes to the thing that is finally arriving. I'm not sure why, but this feels important to say right now. The years were not wasted. I know it has felt like that sometimes. I know there have been moments where you looked at the time that had passed and felt something close to grief for the version of your life you imagined you would have by now, for the things you thought would have arrived sooner, for the experiences you feel you should not have had to wait this long for. That grief is real and it deserves to be felt, not bypassed, not spiritually reframed away, actually felt. But here is what is also true. Everything those years built in you, every layer of depth, every hard-won piece of wisdom, every expansion of your capacity to hold difficulty without breaking, every quiet evolution that happened in the spaces between the waiting. That is not nothing. That is actually everything. Because the version of you who receives this turning point is not the same version who started waiting for it. That version has been refined, deepened, made more real, made more capable of holding what is coming. Have you been carrying grief around the time that has passed? Around the version of your life you thought you would have by now? Tell me in the comments. Be honest, because I think this is something almost nobody talks about directly. The grief of long waiting, the mourning of a timeline that did not go the way you planned. You are allowed to feel that, and you are allowed to feel hope at the same time. Those two things do not cancel each other out. They can exist together, and right now, they probably do. Let me talk about what this turning point is probably going to ask of you, because it will ask something. It always does. It will probably ask you to make a decision you have been postponing. One you kept postponing because the timing never felt right, because something else always needed to be in place first, because you were not sure enough yet. And suddenly the postponing will not be possible anymore, not because someone is forcing you, but because something inside you will finally be done waiting to decide. It will probably ask you to let go of something you have been holding alongside the waiting, a backup plan, a safety net, a version of things that you kept available just in case the real thing never arrived. And letting go of it will feel like risk. Real, uncomfortable, this could go wrong risk. But it will also feel, if you are honest with yourself in that moment, like the most natural thing in the world. And it will probably ask you to receive without sabotaging. This is the one I want to spend a moment on. Because it is the one that trips people up most often. After long waiting, after years of not having something, when it finally begins to arrive, there is a very human tendency to find reasons it cannot be real, to look for the catch, to wait for the other shoe to drop, to subtly create the very outcome you feared, because the alternative of actually receiving the good thing feels more terrifying than the familiar disappointment. Watch for that tendency in yourself, not with judgment, with awareness, because the biggest risk in a turning point is not that good things will not arrive. It is that they arrive and you talk yourself out of them before they can land. Let me bring this toward its close now, and I want to do this slowly, because after everything you have carried, after all the years of this, you deserve a slow, full, complete landing. Here is what is true right now. Something is turning in your life, actually turning, not metaphorically, not someday. In the real, tangible, you are going to feel it fabric of your actual experience. The thing you have been waiting for, the shift you have been holding on for, the turning point you had almost stopped letting yourself believe was coming. It is happening, not because I am promising you a specific outcome, not because I can hand you a guarantee, but because the probability of what is assembling in your energy right now, the convergence of everything you have built and survived and become points unmistakably toward movement, toward arrival, toward something that deserves the word finally. And your only job right now, your one and only job, is to stay present enough to meet it, not to force it, not to control how it arrives, not to make it match the exact picture in your head. Just to be present, grounded, open, and willing to let what has been building toward you actually reach you. You have waited long enough. You have done the work. You have earned the arrival of this, not through suffering, not as a reward for patience, but because of who you have become inside all of it, because of the depth and the realness and the extraordinary quiet strength that years of continuing in the dark builds in a person. That person, the one you became while you were waiting, is exactly who was needed for what is coming. If this reading reached something real in you today, if something in here cracked something open or named something you have been carrying without words, please leave a comment below. Tell me how long you have been waiting. Tell me what you have been holding on for. Tell me what it would mean to you if this is actually real. Because your story matters. The years you have carried matter. And what is turning in your life right now is the answer to all of it. Stay present, stay grounded, and let yourself finally receive what you came here for. No false dawns, no borrowed hope, just the raw truth for the ones who kept their light on through the longest nights. The door you knocked on for years is opening. Walk through it.